Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you want to find us on YouTube, go to Ampire Media, that's AMPIRE. It would be much appreciated. Today, I'm joined by ESPN's Tim McManus, who covers the Philadelphia Eagles as we continue our tour around the NFC East. Where do the Eagles fit in, and what does he think of the Commanders? The Eagles had a busy offseason. I think there's definite optimism in Philadelphia. I think it's warranted, but I do think there's some key questions that could hold the Eagles back. So I get into all of that with Tim, talking about Jalen Hurts, how A.J. Brown fits in, one concern about A.J. Brown, and then what he thinks of the defense. The stats were pretty good last year at the end, but what does he think of them and the improvements they made in the offseason? Again, and then what does he think about the Commanders? Keep in mind, he knows a lot about Carson Wentz, and he went through that experience in Philadelphia. So Tim can offer us a little bit of insight into what he thinks about Wentz. You may not like all of it, folks, but it's somebody who has some insight. So you take it all in, and we see where it goes. Wentz, there's a good chance that Wentz has clearly evolved or matured in his game since he was in Philadelphia and in his approach. So, and I think the guy's always worked hard. I'm not talking about the approach, but just more, you evolve as you get older, you mature as you get older. Has Wentz done that to the point where what somebody saw of him in Philly might be a different guy than what Washington gets this year? We'll find out. There you go. You can follow Tim on Twitter at Tim_McManus, MC capital MANUS, and you can read both our work on ESPN.com. Don't forget, I'm still on vacation. So again, any breaking news, you're not going to hear from me. So enjoy these podcasts and come back on Thursday when I'm going to have a special guest, former Redskins tight end, Niles Paul. So let's get to Tim McManus. All right, Tim. Well, you cover a team that has made quite a few moves in the offseason and is definitely going to be one that's worth watching, not just in the NFC East, but maybe in the NFC overall if a couple things hit. So how do you assess where the Eagles are at as we get closer to training camp?
I think you set that up well. I mean, they've had a good offseason. And I've been on the beat long enough to know not to judge, off seasons as an absolute predictor of the way things are going to go. I was, front and center for Vince Young's Dream Team comment in 2011. And so
I'm familiar with those teams as well, like with the other side too. Trust me.
Yeah. So it comes with all of those caveats, but certainly on paper, when you acquire A.J. Brown and now he's with Devonta Smith, right. When you get Hassan Reddick, who's got 23.5 sacks over the last 2 years, when you double dip on the Georgia defensive players in the first and third round, and the Kobe Dean and Jordan Davis, you get Kaiser White, you get James Bradbury to bolster the secondary. Like those kind of moves have gotten the city a little bit amped up about what this season could bring. And it feels like even nationally, there's buzz surrounding this team. There's really not that many holes on offense that I can see, John. And the defense seems like it got a little bit better. So yeah, I think that they're in a position, to contend certainly in this division and maybe in the conference, largely depending on, whether those moves shake out as anticipated and whether Jalen Hurts can elevate his game.
Well, that's the big thing too, offensively for me, when I look at them, is where is he at in his development as a passer? And is that something, can he ascend to a different level as a passer? And how important is that to this offense that he does that?
Well, it's critical. I mean, that's, if they want to be like legit, vying for the NFC, then Jalen Hurts is going to have to rise up. And I know that the coaching staff is really high on him and the offseason that he's had. So he went to Southern California. He worked with a couple of the quarterback gurus there. They're working a lot on his footwork and on his release. And what Nick Sirianni, their head coach, has said is that it's been showing up like in their OTAs. And a lot of this is like against air and 7-on-7. So another caveat to be thrown into the mix there. But what Sirianni has seen is that his accuracy has jumped up. It has improved. And you mix the better fundamentals with the fact that this is the first time that he's had consecutive years in an offensive system since high school.
Wow.
So he's more familiar with what's going on, that therefore everything's processing quicker. He's getting the ball out quicker. And so, positive so far about what we're hearing out of Jalen Hurts. Then of course, then the games start, and do those fundamentals stick, and can he raise his game in real action? That's what we're going to be learning this year.
Yeah, and like if that all happens, I can see them winning the division. I mean, I don't think that wouldn't be a big stretch if he can do all that. Because as a leader, he seems to be really good. They have a really good run game. With AJ Brown, the guy is a really good receiver. Are there any concerns about durability with him? Is that a factor at all? And in when you look at this offensive roster.
In my mind, it is. I mean, from the outside, I always viewed AJ Brown as like one of the better wide receivers in the league. I think that he has a skill set that is conducive for this offensive system. And I think for Hurts, like if he can trust the guy that's going over the middle, and Hurts and Brown are best friends, besides the fact that Brown is just a really good receiver. But, Brown is somebody who can operate over the middle of the field, get those extra yards, break tackles. I think that'll be great for Hurts, because he wasn't, he was a little bit shy about going over the middle in year one. And I think that'll absolutely help him. So I think, the fit is there. I think that Brown's an excellent player. It's just like health to me, is on my mind as we go into this year. Like, why did the Titans, trade him? One of the best wide receivers at 24 years old. I mean, what's that about? And, and we have seen an injury history. So,
right.
Yeah, that's all in my mind as we go into the year. On paper, everything looks great, but health is a big key. And as we know, Brown has had a couple issues over his short career.
Right. Next to Devonta Smith, how did he look this spring? I mean, I'm assuming the guy is a good receiver, but how did he look?
Yeah, he looked good. I mean, they're anticipating that he continues to point in upward. And, Sirianni had said that he believes that he's the number one wide receiver. And now you add AJ Brown. And so they're basically viewing like they have a 1 and a 1A in Devonta Smith and AJ Brown. And you have the big physical over the middle type of receiver in AJ Brown, complemented with Devonta Smith, who's, more of like on the, you don't want to say finesse, but he's the leaner frame, maybe some more explosive plays, just two different type of skill sets that should kind of mesh well, I think.
And then you got Goddard and you got Sanders to throw into that mix as well, which makes it like, this could be a really explosive offense if this hits.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying with no holes. So wide receiver, looks like it's the best it's been in years for them. Dallas Goedert has the potential to be a top 3, top 5 tight end in this league. The offensive line is one of the best in the NFL. The running back situation is fine from where I'm sitting, with Miles Sanders in a contract year, Kenny Gainwell coming off of a strong rookie season. So that looks all pretty good. And it's just a matter of whether the quarterback kind of rises up.
So let's look at the defense. And one of the things that I wondered about, and now they certainly have addressed holes on defense, and you can get to that. But after last season, I also wondered in the second half of the year, especially, they reminded me a little bit what Washington did the year before, where they looked really good, but they also faced a lot of really not so good quarterbacks to help build that. So what concerns did you have concerns about the defense? Not so much how good they were, but how good were they really? And then how much did they help themselves by getting Reddick, Bradbury, Davis, Nakobe Dean?
Yeah, I didn't think the defense was very good at all last year. And some of the stats that you look at is like the completion percentage allowed, like they were last in the NFL. There was like 5 different quarterbacks that had completed 80+% of their balls against them. It was a first-year coordinator, and Jonathan Gannon. People are really high around the league on him. In fact, he got some head coach interviews this offseason, but his first year was not great. I expect improvement from him, and in large part because now he's got some pieces I think that he feels more comfortable with. Anytime you get a new defense coordinator, as you know, or any new like there's an overhaul in the system, and now you need to bring in parts that fit that. And Gannon wants to run more of like a 34 base. That's why Jordan Davis now comes in to be sort of that tackle absorber, the block absorber in the middle of the defense, and also a penetrator there. Hassan Reddick can be more of like the stand-up outside linebacker that can apply pressure. Brandon Graham comes back. He's the heart and soul of that defense. He had a torn Achilles. So he's back. And then Bradbury should complement Darius Slay pretty well. I believe that they will take a step up. I mean, when we're talking about holes, safety, John, is still there. They went after a couple of the big guys in free agency, and they swung and they missed, and they didn't really address it after the fact either. There's still time between now and September for them to do so, but it just feels a little bit light. So that's like one area where, okay, is the secondary really where it needs to be in order for these guys to be legitimate contenders? That's something to keep an eye on. But overall, I would say that the defense looks like it's improved.
Do you think they'd look at Landon Collins?
Not sure that he would be a fit. I think they like more of like the versatile safeties. And to me, he seems a little bit more one-dimensional now, right?
Well, his versatility is safety / linebacker, not deep half, deep middle, rotating back there. It's more, his versatility is more up near the line of scrimmage than it is deep. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think they want to cover safety. So I would say probably not on Collins, but never know.
What did you see from Bradbury? Did you get enough of a look at him this spring to get, to see how he'll fit in this? Because I wonder too, Tim, like, do he and Slay, correct me if I'm wrong, would you consider more of a man corner? I think he's a great corner, period. But whereas Bradbury seems to be just primarily zone.
No, I think that's fair. I think that they can do both, and I believe that's what drew Gannon to Bradbury is the fact that he can excel in zone. And if you look at the Eagles, they played primarily zone coverage last year in year one under Gannon. As the year went on, part of the improvement was that they were mixing more man coverage in. And to your point, I think that plays to Slay's strengths. Mm-hmm. So the versatility for Bradbury is part of the appeal. And I think that you're going to see a heavier mix of zone and man in year two under Gannon. And the other thing that you'll see from Bradbury is somebody who challenges. And I mean, if you look like last year, he had 17 pass breakups, right? And he, over his career, he's been among the leaders in that category. And we go back to the fact that the Eagles were very soft in their coverage last year. Here's somebody that can challenge more. Mm-hmm. So I think those are the two primary elements, somebody who can do both of what Gannon is looking for and can also come up and challenge a little bit more, get his hands on some balls. I think for those reasons, he's a fit and should elevate their game in the back end.
So how do you look in general at this team? Do you because again, they've gotten they've created some buzz with their offseason moves. And I think I can see any of those top three teams winning this division. I think, Dallas with Dak, are they still the favorites? I think the Eagles may have a higher ceiling depending on Hurts' development. How do you see it?
Well, I mean, so this time of year is always when the rose-colored glasses go on. The moves get made and everybody sees a roster that's fully healthy and all these things that can be accomplished. And really, their ceiling is fairly high. I think that if everything goes right for them, primarily from a health perspective, they could be in the conversation, the playoffs plus. The other side of that coin is that they're in this almost finished this transition period on the roster where they have a lot of young players and a lot of young talent, but also some old guards who are critical to the team. And we're talking about Brandon Graham. We're talking about Lane Johnson. We're talking about Jason Kelsey, Fletcher Cox, right? Those are some of the core Super Bowl team guys that are still being asked to. What's that?
The OGs.
The OGs, exactly right. So that are still being, leaned on to have good seasons. Do they still have that? Will their bodies hold up? I think that's, if we're looking on the other side of the coin, that's plus maybe Hurts not taking the step that he needs to, or the things that can hold them back. And so, I think that their floor and their ceiling are both at a decent spot. I think we're probably talking like 8 games, 8 wins minimum, and then you're probably, I guess, maxing out somewhere around what, 12,
Yeah.
13.
See, and I think their ceiling is higher than what Washington has. I think the floors are maybe around the same, but I think the ceiling for the Eagles is a little bit higher. How do you look at Washington and what they've done and where they're at in all this?
I mean, it's hard not to think of anything but Carson Wentz. I've got plenty of experience covering him. I've seen the good and the bad and the ugly. And my thought there is that that Indianapolis was like the spot for him to resurrect his career. Like there was nothing that could have been better from a market size standpoint, from the coaching staff. He had his guy in Frank Reich, and for whatever reason, he was in and he was out, and I guess it was the owner who was pretty adamant about moving on from him. And Washington, like, respectfully, is not usually the place that I think of, like, where you go to like find stability and resurrect your career. And, recent history shows. And so I guess I'm a little bit skeptical about how that's all going to go. But I'm a fan of Ron Rivera. I'm a fan of the culture that it seems like he tries to instill. I think that they are marching in the sort of right direction, but it's hard for me to get past the quarterback. Like, I mean, and I know that's pretty simplistic as the quarterback goes, so teams go. But
right.
It's about Wentz.
Right, and that's where so much depends on that. And the funny thing is, what they're hoping here is that because he's coming here to a situation where you're replacing Taylor Heineke, the lineage in the last 5-6 years is really not comparable to what the lineage was with the Colts. So the owner might compare him more to Peyton Manning or Andrew Luck or even Phillip Rivers. Here, again, like if he does 27-7, they might build a statue to him, that. And I wonder if that will that help him? The other thing, Tim, I wonder too, one of the things that has come up is like Ron Rivera will talk about how hard he is on himself. Was that his reputation there? And how did that play out? Because that can be very positive, and it can also can it hold you back a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. Rivera's got it. He's got it nailed. I mean, that's a part of his downfall, honestly, in my opinion, is that, I always, when I think of Wentz, I think of like, kind of like white knuckle grip, where he just tries to hold on to things too tightly. And what kind of form can that take? So if it can take form if you feel really passionate about what's going on with, the game plan for that week. Maybe you're just a little bit too like white knuckle gripped on that, and maybe, not being as meshed with the coaching staff as you need to be. Maybe it prevents you from taking that deep breath, having your guard down, just being like cool and relaxed around your teammates. That kind of stuff. Like, yes, I think that's something that he absolutely needs to work on. I think that it works to his benefit, and the fact that he's so driven and he's so determined and he's a perfectionist. Okay, that got him to where he's at largely, along with his natural gifts. The flip side of that is that if you go too far with that, then it can have negative effects. So yeah, that's I think a great point by Rivera. I think that's a key to understanding Wentz. He's not a bad guy. He's, people have, these reports come out and all that stuff. And so much to me is just about that. It's about the fact of, maybe just being wired a little too tightly and needing to kind of uncoil and allow things to kind of flow more freely.
I wonder too, will it help? Do you think it would help him? Because, when things started to go south in Philly, well, it's Jalen Hurts is there. And then how much the Nick Foles situation played in that. I wonder if here not having it's him, right? Taylor Heineke's not a threat to the starting job. Can that help him? Is that enough?
I don't know if it is. This is his last chance. So how does that work psychologically for him? Mm-hmm. Is it, okay, I'm going to apply all the different things that I've learned and recognize where I've come short and really put that as an emphasis, or going back to kind of the, the tight grip, it's my last chance. And, and does the wire continue to be tightly wound? And so I think it goes one of two ways. I mean, history we have to go off of right now. And it's that it's not going to go well, I guess. But he's got this shot, and he's got to recognize that. And there's a chance. He's got ability, and he just needs to put it all together.
And then finally, last thing, how do you look at the NFC East right now? How are you looking at it?
Yeah,
I think we all assume the Giants are fourth.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I kind of feel like Dallas and Philly are neck and neck, that the Eagles gained ground on them this offseason. And so I look at them as kind of like, I don't really have a top between those two. I feel like it could go either way for them. And then with Washington, and then Giants pulling up the rear, but maybe a little bit more sporty this year.
There you go. Tim, thanks a lot for coming on. Hope you have a good summer.
All right, my friend, you too.
Hey everybody, it's John Keim. Do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, and I'll continue to bring you guests who provide excellent insight into the Washington Commanders. And while you're here, check out the other terrific content on the Empire Media Network, including Inside the Cap with Joel Corey and All's Caps with Steve Wino and former Washington Capital Carl Alsner. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Thank you.